Hello everybody and welcome to week 1 of the GBA D-League Season 2 Game of the Week. I'm Gubs, joined by a very special guest named Emily today.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Berk.
So originally we had this planned for Sam, but I felt like, why wait? Let's get Berk on the show. Berk seems like a good guy, so I'm excited to have you on, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so how we'll be doing these videos is they'll be broken up into 3 parts. We'll be going down the team preview first, we'll do the game, and then we'll talk about the Pokemon of the game, which I have selected before even watching the game, so it might not be the most educated opinion. It'll probably be just the thing that got the most knockouts, so whatever, it's no big deal. You'll get educated opinions during the battle itself, so trying to think if I had any other announcements I wanted to go over. This will likely be with a different guest every week. I might even have some D-League players on, and you might even see Berk come back because I like Berk's opinions on things. So, yeah, we might as well go ahead and get into the team preview, and I'll let you start off with your thoughts because I've been talking a lot.
Well, definitely, I thought it was definitely a very interesting team from the Shelmets this week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he brought the Manaphy, which definitely see why, because the Blazikens don't really have too much for the Manaphy. You know, it can really hit the Gastrodon if it needs to.
Yeah.
The Skarmory, the Mamoswine. It's just pretty much everything on his team. It's very hard for the Blazikens to wall that thing. Then he lines it up with the Latios and the Tornadus T. It's a very strong offensive core that the Blazikens had to deal with, and the Blazikens bring he's not bringing the strong core that, you know, we think he's going to bring almost every week.
Yeah.
He only brings the Skarmory. He's bringing a ton of offense. Entei, Alakazam, Mamoswine, Lucario, even the Manectric. It's all offense except for the Skarmory. So it's definitely, looking at the team preview, it's offense versus offense with a little bit of bulk in between.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very punch for punch battle. Probably short, punch for punch, you know. Something's going to die almost every single turn. And it's going to be very hard for not only the Shelmets to wall the Blazikens' offensive threats, it's going to be hard for the Blazikens to wall the Shelmets' offensive threats.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. You can definitely see in the team building process that the Blazikens were really feeling the pressure of all the offensive threats that the Shelmets have, because Mega Venusaur, the first pick by the Blazikens, didn't even get brought this week, and for good reason. You look at Latios, Manaphy, Tornadus T, all of those get coverage moves that can really dent it, and then you also have Pokemon on the bench from the Shelmets like Amoonguss and Reuniclus, which can deal with Mega Venusaur, although Amoonguss in some scenarios isn't the best answer for it, but I definitely see the team matchup heavily favoring the Shelmets this week. Just the offensive threats paired with a nice little core of Blissey Doublade there to patch up a lot of the weaknesses that this team has, really has me looking at this team as the better on the better end of the matchup, and I don't think this is the type of team that the Blazikens wanted to bring. I don't think the Blazikens want to be quite this offensive. You look at all the bulk on this team basically, and it's on the bench. You have Skarmory, and that's it. Like, there's really no other bulk. I guess Entei is kind of a wall, but I feel like Entei's best niche is as a tank slash choice user. I don't like Entei as just a straight up wall because I think you take away a lot of its best attributes, which are the high power hits that it can pump out, especially on the physical side. So I really think the Blazikens got put into a position that they didn't want to be in this week. And week 1, maybe that's a good thing to kind of break them out of a potential shell they would have fallen into, bringing a lot of more balanced teams. Maybe it's good for the Blazikens to actually have to come out of this week with a bit of a different game plan than maybe they would have liked to have gone with.
That sounds really good to me.
Yeah.
The Mamoswine, actually, I look at it, it's not as big of a threat to the Shelmets team as, you know, when you look at the team, the overall team roster. Doublade, if he can't knock that thing off, will be able to take Earthquakes really well from Mamoswine.
Yeah.
And Blissy's just going to be... it's always such a problem to kill. So, I think he has the stronger offense this week, coupled with that really hard to break down bulk.
Yeah, it's that I love that Blissey Doublade core. I'm looking at that now. I actually really like it. Like, I think Blissey is, fat, you know what, but hey, it works. So I can't knock the Shelmets for doing that. I really like the Shelmets team this week. Like, I really like what he put together. I think it's really solid. Going up against a team where he definitely looks to have the better matchup just overall in terms of the entire roster. So I think that just about wraps up for the team preview, though. We broke down a lot of stuff, so we'll be back shortly with the actual game. Okay, so after minor technical difficulties, we are starting the battle over. So we have the Blazikens, which will be from your point of view, and the New York Shelmets, which are on the opposite side. So the Shelmets lead out with Manaphy, as we see Mamoswine come out from the Blazikens.
Now he is just definitely switching out because there's no way he's staying on the Manaphy. He needs that Mamoswine around.
Yeah, I don't agree with the Skarmory, though. I think Scald is a bit of a threat, and I don't think switching Skarm into that is very good, but I think this is definitely especially defensive based off the way it took that crit serve.
Yeah, there's no way this is an especially defensive Skarmory. No way it would take it that well if it was physically defensive. Yeah. That's a very good move on the Blaziken side to do that.
Yeah, definitely unexpected. People don't expect especially defensive too often, although it is a semi-standard set. But we do just see the Rain Dance come out from the Shelmets as Skarmory goes for Stealth Rock, and I think the Surf probably is... No, it didn't even come close. Wow, I thought it would come really close to taking it out.
I mean, if you saw, well, it took Tank that crit.
Yeah, that's true. The crit would be the same amount of damage as Rain Boosted, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, because they changed the damage that crits do, I think, in 6th Gen. I can't quite remember that.
Yeah, I think it's 1.5 times each.
Yeah. So we do see the Doublade come out, though, because Manaphy probably was in a losing battle at that point because of Roost. And we see Sacred Sword do quite a good amount of damage.
But even still, that Skarmory, that was after Roost, so it's super effective. It still takes it pretty well.
That's true. I forgot the Roost. God, this is what happens when you're rusty. You forget things like that. So Sacred Sword now, is obviously going to be doing pretty pitiful amount of damage, and the hazards are starting to get stacked up, and things are looking really good for the Blazikens right now. Actually putting up a lot of offensive pressure with a defensive Mon, which is very nice to see.
Yeah, he sets up this Sword Stance, and he just gets immediately rolled out, so not a very good turn on his part, but out comes the Houndoom.
Yeah, which is probably the best switch, even though the hazard damage hurts, but rain stops. And now this Skarmory is definitely going to be forced out unless the Blazikens want to lose it here, and I don't think that's going to be the case. So we do see Skarmory switch out probably into the Entei, I was going to say, but game kind of got ahead of me there.
Yeah, I don't know if this is an Assault Vest or a Choice Banded version. Seeing how he would just switch it in, I'm guessing it's more likely Assault Vest, and it took that overheat so well that
depending on what kind of Houndoom this is, I don't know if it's Scarfed Specs or I didn't see Life Orb damage, so it's likely one of those two.
And those hazards are definitely going to do well for the Blazikens, because unless this Latios has Defog, I don't think he has any way to remove hazards.
Based off that damage, though, that looks like it's probably Banded Entei.
Yeah.
To me, that did way too much damage for it to not be banded. So he also gets the burn, which is really beneficial to help wearing down this Latios. And unless this Latios has Defog, things aren't looking too good for the Shelmets right now.
Yeah, it definitely has to be banded, because if not, he would have just gone for the extreme speed right there.
Yeah, that's true as well. And wow, Draco Meteor having the juice to take it out, likely meaning that Latios is specs.
Yeah, that seems very likely. It is a Spadef Skarmory, and a non-choice.
That's why I'm a little shocked that Draco took it out. That's got to probably be specs damage, I would imagine.
He sends out the Lucario and does not go for the extreme speed to take it out. I'm guessing just going to let it go down to burn.
I would hope he goes for Sword Stance here if that's his line of play, because otherwise I don't agree with taking that amount of damage, and he does go for SD.
He does go for the Sword Stance.
So that's good.
And I think the Latios is just going to go down to burn at this point.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It
It looked like it was in range, and without leftovers. So no defog from Latios, still putting a lot of pressure on the Shelmets with all these hazards that are racking up. But Doublade probably should deal with this Lucario pretty nicely.
Yeah, and even if it goes for the crunch, at +2, Doublade is going to take it so well, and then Sacred Sword should probably just take it out.
Yeah, easily clean up the rest of this Lucario's HP. I don't think there's any doubt about that, just because of how strong Doublade is.
And this just goes to show how physically bulky Doublade is.
Yeah.
Eviolite 150 base defense, it's not taking damage from physical hits.
Unfortunately for Doublade, though, that does offer a free switch in for Entei, and I don't think at this point Doublade's going to be wanting to take a Sacred Fire.
No, he does switch out.
Yeah, he does have the Houndoom, so that does kind of make that play a bit risky, and does in fact get the Flash Fire boost.
And that is big because now he's Choice Bandit. He's going to have to switch out.
Yeah.
And he decides to go out into his Mamoswine.
Wow. I don't think Overheat's... I mean, I don't think it's going to take this Overheat very well at all. If it's not Sash, it's probably going down. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's down.
Dirty.
I mean, thick, even with Thick Fat, I mean...
Well, the Flash Fire just negates that, essentially. So...
Yeah, Flash Fire boosted Overheat. It's not taking it.
Yeah, no way. No how. So, things are looking good, and because of Flash Fire, this Overheat's going to have a little bit more juice behind it and might even take this Manic Trick out. Not quite, though. Pretty close.
It does. At -2, it does a hell of a lot of damage,
Yeah,
though.
just going to... This Mamoswine, this Houndoom has put on a ton of offensive pressure, and I'm really impressed with how it's done this game.
Yeah, and it was one of the mons that in the draft analysis we looked at and said, is he even going to be able to bring this ever? And it picked up, it killed the Mamoswine outright, and it just does really well. The Alakazam is in. It's going to have to take a Shadow Sneak, though. So if this is Focus Sash is broken, and it was very good of him to... Well, it would break the Sash.
Well, didn't even, get it. You know what I mean. Didn't get down to 1 HP is what I'm trying to say. But, yeah, you see Psychic easily have the juice to finish off that Doublade, though. But that allots a free switch in for Tornadus T, which has 1 base speed more than Alakazam, unfortunately, for the mustachioed magician there.
And Tornadus T is just such a good offensive mon.
Yeah.
Having the regenerator just to constantly switch in and switch out, the rocks don't even matter to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's healing off more damage than the rocks can deal, and obviously spikes, because it's a flying type, aren't affecting it.
Yeah, so in comes the Blissey, and in comes Entei, and unfortunately for Blissey, it's not going to be able to take a Sacred Fire.
It might take 1 depending on how it's EV'd. I don't think he really needs to risk that at this point, though, because he still has Manaphy.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with losing Lucario so early for the Blazikens and not even having Mamoswine is that he has very few answers for that Blissey, and if this is choiced Entei, that's not exactly the best solution.
But he does go for the Sacred Fire and does snag the burn. Mm-hmm. So that will help whittle it down. But if this, I think this is supposed to be a hydration, rain dance, all that fun stuff. So the burn probably won't even matter because it'll just rain dance it away.
Yeah, probably. I would imagine that that's the case. And we do see Manic Trick come in after the switch out. So I think he's probably going to end up switching out this Manaphy. I can't imagine why he would leave it in at this point because it does have such potential, but he does in fact stay in with it, so I guess he just felt like he doesn't need it.
Probably not. He has the Tornadus.
Yeah.
And I mean, he got the Rain Dance up, which means that the Tornadus, if you're on a rain team, it's going to have Hurricane, and that is going to hit.
Yeah,
so hard.
One of the most powerful spammable attacks in Rain. It's just ridiculous how powerful that attack becomes when you take away that accuracy downside from it. And I don't think E-Speedle is going to have the juice to take out this Tornadus T, and in fact it doesn't, and Hurricane easily should take that out.
He did get a crit. And
I don't know if that crit mattered. It depends on the EV spread, I guess. This is the GBA, so those EVs could have been teched to take a Hurricane better, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very powerful move, and it doesn't resist it. But again, yeah, depending on how it's EV'd, it might have just been a fully, full HP, full attack adamant.
That is
and it might have been able
possible.
to take the Hurricane.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued as to what that EV spread was, because I think that is probably the determining factor as to whether or not that crit mattered. If that was like, it looked like it had a lot of HP investment just based off the number that was showing on the screen. But I don't know if that's enough, because it is a base 110 special attack Hurricane. That's tough, and I don't know if that was Scarf or Specs. It depends on what that mana trick was. It looked like the mana trick was likely Scarfed, so it's probably a Scarf Tornadus then. So I don't know. It's really interesting. I think that crit definitely helped the Shelmets get the win. I don't know if it exactly cost the Blazikens the game. It might have.
It's hard to tell, just because, again, don't know the spreads. Might have, it might not have. But either way, it was a very good match. Played very well on both sides.
Yeah.
And
it's just, like you said in the team preview, it's just one of those knock 'em out, drag 'em out games, because you had a lot of offense and very little defense showing from both teams. And once Skarmory went down especially, the game really started to pick up in terms of pace.
Then the Blazikens don't have any defense whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the Shelmets still had that Doublade and the Blissey.
Yeah.
And Tornadus T, which, with the Regenerator, can take some hits.
Exactly. So I think we might as well use that as an opportunity now to segue into the Pokemon of the game, which is in fact Tornadus T, which got that clutch crit. That might have mattered, probably did, because of the Entei's defensive investment that we are suspecting. But regardless, it did come out of the game with 3 knockouts, 0 feints, with a +3 differential. That puts its season stat total at 3 kills and 0 deaths. I don't know why I said feints, and who cares? So, what do you think about that, Berk?
Well, for me, I'm torn between the Tornadus and actually the Houndoom as the Pokemon of the game.
Yeah.
Because that Houndoom, it immediately just took out that the Mamoswine. Like, gets a Flash Fire, kills it off. But the Tornadus, it was just played so well because he saved it for the end when he knew he could outspeed everything on the Blazikens team, and the Blazikens lost a ton of priority with extreme speed on Lucario if it had it, and Ice Shard on Mamoswine. So without, at the very least, the Mamoswine, it became very hard to deal with the Tornadus at that point, and he was able to just set up the rain and then just spam the Hurricanes until he won the battle.
Exactly. I think if you were to give a runner-up, it would obviously be Houndoom. Like, Houndoom did a ton of work in terms of just like the thought process, the mind games in the game itself, forcing a lot of plays that I'm sure the Blazikens otherwise wouldn't have made if it weren't for like the Flash Fire and for the offensive pressure that Overheat was outputting. So overall, though, I think Tornadus was probably the sole mon that like was really needed to push like the Shelmets into victory, because with that speed and that power and the rain, really helped clean up that team nicely and get that crit, obviously, which very well could have won in the game.
Yeah, it's just I'm really impressed just by the way it was played. Tornadus is one of those mons that I think is a little bit tricky to use, just because there's a lot of different sets you can run. It's got a lot of coverage, and it's one of those mons that you send in out. It's like a revenge killer, but he used it as a sweeper this game, just because of its massive power in the rain.
Yeah, in the rain, it completely transforms that Pokemon into a sweeper, like, because you can just spam that Stab Hurricane, which is really close to second to none in terms of offensive power. Just that attack is so strong, has that chance for confusion. It really sets Tornadus T apart from a lot of other rain sweepers in just terms of that ability with Regenerator. It has a lot of staying power, and I've used Tornadus T in the GBA. I didn't have the rain to back it up, but I'm definitely impressed with how it functioned this game, and I'm impressed overall with the performance of both players in this game. And that's going to wrap up the video for us, guys. So Next week, we don't know who we're going to be featuring yet. We're going to try to feature every team on this channel at least once, then go into the best games of the week. So for those of you expecting Arcaniners versus Gastros, because that was the best game, sorry to disappoint. But any closing thoughts from you, Berk?
I'm just really impressed. I'm really impressed by the Shelmets. We looked at their draft. We said they didn't draft Polytoad. They didn't, what are they going to be able to do with this rain team without a rain setter? And this week, I think they definitely showed how strong their team can be when they play it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. The Shelmets were criticized a little unfairly from their draft because everybody said it was just basically a Poke-Aim Bronx Beartics ripoff. And I think this was a statement win for the Shelmets to show that they're not just a imitation. They are they're trying to become the genuine article in their own way, with some similar mods to Joey. But I think that's gonna exist in any draft. I think just because those are some quality Pokemon. Thanks all of you for watching, and take it easy and peace out.
Later.